LEGO Batman 1 is considered by many to be the most broken LEGO game, and for good reason. The abundant out-of-bounds clips, the various movement glitches, and the complicated development cycle all contribute to this. But there's one level in particular that outshines all the rest. A level that isn't just broken from a speedrunning perspective, but also for casual players and completionists alike. This is 2-3, otherwise known as Under the City. I'll begin by explaining how this level is done in speedruns, just to sort of set the stage for those unfamiliar with the many exploits in LEGO Batman 1. This level has you clipping through walls, clipping out of bounds, upwarping, clipping through floors, and even jumping off your own batarang to skip a large puzzle, only to finish one room later in the boss fight against Killer Croc. As you can probably guess, it would be hard to make this level any faster. We don't solve any puzzle the intended way. I don't even think we solve a puzzle, period. However, this level isn't some random outlier. It isn't a broken section in an otherwise perfect game. It's a symptom of a fundamentally broken game. Many of the game's levels can be cracked open like a Sunday omelet, such as the Lure of the Night or the Top of the Tower. But the reason Under the City is so special isn't because of its flashy speedrun. It's because of LEGO's most iconic collectible, the mini-kit. I know, wow, BD1P, this is the upteenth time we've talked about LEGO Batman's mini-kits. What more could I stand to gain that I couldn't learn in your near 40-minute video on story kits? And you're 16.6% right. I did show off one example of today's topic way back in the LEGO Batman No Free Play video, right here. There's an out-of-bounds mini-kit off to the right in room 1 that the average player will never collect. You either need to do a whole slew of complicated things in story mode to grab it, or know about the few infinite height glitches in free play to do the same. But there's something major I left out in that video. This isn't the only out-of-bounds minikit in the game, and it's not even the only one in this level. Under the City houses a total of 5 more out-of-bounds minikits that no one has ever collected. And today, we're going to be the first to pick up all of them. Again, for those unfamiliar with LEGO video games, most games have 10 minikits in a stage, and you're meant to grab them all for 100%. But occasionally, maybe as a kid, you would have encountered a glitch that showed you had 11 or even 12 out of 10 minikits in a stage. There's a couple of explanations for this. The most common one is minikit duping, and it's seen a lot in both Indiana Jones 1 and the Complete Saga. Here's how it works. If a minikit puzzle requires you to do a certain amount of actions to get it to spawn, like build 3 snowmen for example, it then has 3 separate spawning locations possible, one by each snowman. If you build the snowman in a different order each time, so the spawning location is different from your last, you can collect extra or duplicated kits. These don't really do anything besides maybe get you to 10 out of 10 minikits faster, but they're sometimes used in challenge runs like the 2 I've done for Indy and Batman, which leads into our second explanation for getting more than 10 minikits in a stage. Out-of-bounds minikits. These are minikits that the developers just left out of bounds. No one really understands why they're there or why they weren't removed, but they still exist in the game. It's why when you turn on the minikit detector red brick, you'll see extra arrows pointing in all sorts of directions, even if you have every minikit. It's simply an example of another leftover asset. As you make your way through Under the City, you'll notice that annoying arrow in room 1 pointing towards the kit we already discussed. There's nothing to see in room 2 or room 3. But there's one final room I've avoided talking about. The room that houses Killer Croc. There, you'll find 5 arrows. TT Games stashed a whole extra 5 minikits in this one room, and oh my god, why? This feels like one of the most obvious oversights ever. Can you imagine being a kid and relying on that minikit detector to help you beat the game, and then arriving at this? Whatever, what I'm here to do is be the first person to fully ever 100% this level. Step number 1 is getting out of this cell. This much is easy, I did this in my backwards playthrough video. When player 2 is dying in the toxic waste, they kind of stay alive while Killer Croc is punching them, allowing you to switch over right as he pushes the dying player 2 through the wall. But this hardly helps. This outer area is encased in the terrain from the villain story side of the run, meaning that we're fully boxed in. We can use a program called Brickbench to get a more in-depth look at the level and see that, yeah, we're stuck. There isn't a gap in any of the walls or floor that we can get through. But what about the ceiling? This was right where I began my quest to collect the kits. Sure, I couldn't escape the room in story mode, I've tried countless times before, but here we're in free play, with access to so many more tools. While there weren't any holes in the walls or floors, there was an opening in the ceiling, right here in this elevator shaft. The only problem was the gap between the elevator and the shaft going up was minuscule, way too small for every character in the game, besides one. The f***ing penguin minion. Would this be the first time he'd ever be useful to anybody? Nope, still just a little bit too big. Even though the penguin minion continued to be a waste of space, the idea of different character hitboxes gave me another hope for escaping this box. While most LEGO characters have the same sorts of stats like speed or jump distance, TT will rarely throw you a curveball in the most unnoticeable of ways, like how Man-Bat has a faster walking speed than anybody else, or how Killer Croc has a slightly bigger hitbox. This is where a pretty common bit of free play tech comes into play, which we'll call croc clipping. Lag abuse is present in nearly every LEGO speedrun, and it's commonly done by alt-tabbing or using Ctrl-Alt-Delete to quickly go in and out of the game to create artificial lag. If we use this in conjunction with Killer Croc, we're able to glitch through terrain that is otherwise impenetrable. For example, let's stand on the lip of this wall, alt-tab, and then hold the switch character button in the direction of Killer Croc. When the game becomes active again, we immediately buffer a switch to Killer Croc, which sends us through the wall thanks to his oversized hitbox. Of course, as you can see, this isn't very helpful. By the time we're able to switch back to a gliding character, we're already in the death plane. And forget using that slam swapping for infinite height that I showcased earlier. You need ground beneath you to instigate the slam, which is where the height comes from. This is almost where I scrapped the video entirely. I couldn't imagine a perfect world in which I both got out of bounds and got enough height to navigate my way to the various kits scattered around. I casually mentioned this project to a LEGO Batman speedrunner named DaHamster in passing, and we talked back and forth about theoretical ways out of the room. There was one last thing I hadn't tried yet, called a PCC, or Penguin Croc Clip, which lets you get out of bounds in the middle of a jump by gliding as Penguin. Going back into Brickbench, we can see that there is another room present in the map file off to the left, which is an unfinished version of the holding cell seen in the villain story. This room wasn't fully encased in terrain, so making it over there would give us a nice base to slam swap off of. Hamster theorized that a PCC could be possible in the cylinder closest to the excess terrain, and if we glide just right, we might be able to land there. Before I could even begin to test it out, he sent me this.
But if you get on this lip right here, I guess it doesn't matter if you're Penguin or Batman, but you might as well just be Penguin. If you like jump, Control Delete, and then I'm buffering to Croc.
Yeah.
And I escape, and then I have to swap 3 times to glide suit. In that time, that I'm out of bounds, and then glide, and then you'd have to like SSJ. So I don't know if you could do it with some pause stuff, but that's how you would get all of them. Oh man, I had it.
Oh, I see.
I landed in the other area.
You can't SSJ from right there?
Here, I can try. I think I'm just bonking though. Oh, wait a minute.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay.
Baller.
That's the strat. Okay, we accidentally fixed it. That's good. Okay, here, I'll try to like... Here, I'm gonna hit the reload, and I'll hit this all in like one segment that's not cheated.
Oh man.
There we go.
So here we are. We now have a consistent way out of the room, and thanks to the ground being beneath us, a way to get infinite height through slam swapping. All we gotta do now is collect the 5 remaining kits. Kit 1 was pretty easy, it's right next to the elevator, but the other 4 kits would prove to be much more of a challenge. We're not supposed to be here out of bounds, which means the camera is never going to cooperate. We essentially have to blindly navigate to each kit without seeing our player's position or the mini-kit. The only sort of lineup we have here is with Killer Croc's health bar, but that only gives us a guide on 1 access. There's still 2 more we have to account for. To show you how difficult this can be, here's a segment of an hour-long recording of me trying to grab just 1 mini-kit. 1. We literally have nothing but the arrows to go off of. But funnily enough, while I was doing this hour-long grind for the far left kit, I ended up grabbing this one below the floor on a whim, like accidentally, so 3 more to go, I guess? If I wanted to finish this video before I die of old age, I knew I had to get creative. I figured the easiest 2 options of finding out exactly where these mini-kits are would be by getting the coordinates they spawn at, or by finding a way to manipulate the camera. Both things I can't do in the vanilla version of the game, but then I realized something. The LEGO Batman demo has a coordinate viewer in the built-in debug menu, and an option to move the camera around the map. So if I use this demo to mark down the locations of the mini-kits, I could then open up my normal version of the game and line myself up with the kit's position using a player coordinate viewer in Cheat Engine. It would take a long time, but it was the best shot that we had. I had no idea how hard this would end up being. None of the collision on the extra area has any texturing, so it's sort of like you're walking around in an invisible maze as seen here. You also can't gauge the height from this far away, and the only tell that you were going up and down was the Y coordinate in the center of the screen. It took a while, but I finally got the location marked down for the final 3 mini-kits. And of course, there was another issue. Try as I might, even if I was correctly lined up to the 100th decimal placement, the kits weren't being collected. I was feeling skeptical about this, so I teleported my player to the exact coordinates where I grabbed the kits in the demo version, and it still wasn't collecting. Okay, so maybe I had the wrong numbers. Was there any way I could be more precise? After talking to some people who are way smarter than I am, I was given access to an unreleased program that allowed me to analyze the precise position of every object in the level. My numbers were off, but not by much. And even when I used these new numbers and directly teleported to the kits, they still weren't being picked up. I'll save you all some time with this. I tried 2 other things that didn't pan out in regards to these kits. The first was this, which in short was me trying to use one keyboard to control the demo version of the game, and the real game at the same time, so I could have a sort of aerial camera view of what was going on. And the other was using the Wii version of the game with Dolphin's built-in free cam. The first didn't work because of a small amount of desync between the games, which was tragic because I was so proud of this harebrained solution, and the other didn't work because I noticed a fatal flaw I had ignored the entire month I had been making this video. I had immediately assumed that the issue with collecting the kits was positioning, and not the very question of their existence. As I got the emulated version of the Wii game working, I noticed that even with FreeCam, the mini-kits didn't always exist. I had to be in a very specific spot to get them loaded in. At first I figured this had something to do with player positioning, but in actuality it had everything to do with camera positioning. If the camera wasn't facing the mini-kit, it didn't really exist to the game. These 2 kits to the left that I had spent multiple hours trying to grab in all these increasingly convoluted ways would never be possible, leaving us with 14 out of 16 kits possible in Under the City. There goes 16 hours of footage. This isn't the only case of this in the game either. In fact, the only other out-of-bounds minikit in the entire game outside of Under the City has this same issue. It's in 4-4 Green Fingers, over to the left of the hostage room. Sometimes it's just the way things go. In the end though, my point still stands. This level is unbelievably broken. Even the collectibles out of bounds don't work as collectibles. They hardly even exist. LEGO games have a reputation for being glitchy, but it's also why I love them. The point of LEGO is to build how you want, and the easy-to-break nature of these games lets you play how you want. Whether it's speedrunning, challenge runs, or even just for fun, it's for everyone. If you enjoyed the video, your subscription would be appreciated. We are closing that gap to 100K very quickly, and I am just so excited to finally hit that milestone. But if you don't want to, that's entirely your choice. But stay tuned for the next video, which might come out in a week or 2, covering a very, very highly requested topic on this channel. I'll see you then. Goodbye.